These are the 4 amazing LEGO castle factions that came out in 2025. We've got the Kraken Knights, the Griffin Knights, the Horse Knights, and my favorite ones, the Rogue Snakes. But only one of them has an official castle set, so today I'm gonna build all of them their very own castles, armies, and even create some lore for each one of them. Let's get started first with the Horse Knights. Tucked neatly between Lake Wellwort and the Queenswood sits a tiny marsh kingdom. For most of their history, the Horse Kings were mocked. A common epithet among them was Knight of the Bog. It's believed that the first Knight of the Bog was given the title by a lion prince after he was beaten in a joust. Whether true or not, it's stuck, and now young lion princes revel in harassing the horsemen of Lake Wellwort. Now for the actual minifigures, I wanted to make them look humble, but also kinda royal. The idea here is that even though the Lion Kingdom looks down on them, the Horse Knights aren't all that different from the lions, at least in how they dress. I've given most of them these beautiful blue capes and mixed that with some silver armor and white clothing. One of my favorite knights that I made is this guy that carries around a giant halberd. The Horse Knights are just so much fun to customize, and they feel like an ideal castle faction to me. So let's build them a castle already. To start, I set up this base plate that's got space for a horse stable and a main tower. I've laid down a bunch of mud and hay that spills out a bit into the courtyard. Inside the stable, there's some bales of hay and a trough of water. Now we can place a horse in here and one of our knights outside petting a kitten. And to cover it all up, I designed this stable building. The ground floor has got 2 arches and some gates that can swing open on both sides. I decorated it with a horse shield in the middle and a lantern above just to add a little bit of realism to the castle. On the right side of the stable, I placed down some moss growing up the side of the building and a brick-built banner. I'm quite pleased with how this turned out looking, and it slides easily onto the base plate and can also be removed at any time like a modular building. Taking a look at the second floor now, we'll find a white and brown half-timber style building. I took after the design found in the medieval town square, as it makes for the best looking medieval houses without using a lot of parts. You might even notice the window shutters from that set, but these are actually custom printed versions by Cultbricks that look incredible. That little bit of extra printing really helps sell the look for me. Moving around to the back, we'll find the interior that I modeled after the one found in the official Horse Knights castle. I love the bed design from that set, so I just plopped it down into my castle and added some more decorations like a weapon rack and a bedside table. Now we can set the build aside to make the main watchtower. The first floor's got this simple wooden door with a lock and a big gilded window on the side. The interior has a small armory with some swords, a helmet, and a painting of a knight. Just like the stable building, we can place this first floor down like a modular building and cover up the back with one of these removable walls. The next floor I've built with a couple of arrow slits for an archer, along with a tree and more moss growing up the side of the tower. Again, I've got another one of those removable walls here so that we can set up an archer on the inside. The next floor that I've made is quite small, but it's going to be used as a storage room. I put a bunch of food in here, and also a couple of different weapons with horse shields as well. Finally, at the very top, we've got the battlements and the kind of like top of the tower. I made this by designing a really simple stone design on the outside with a wooden cage in the center where an archer can shoot from. It's pretty basic, but I like how it looks, and I think it suits the vibe of the castle that I was going for. I am really proud with how this one turned out, and I'm going to be displaying this one on my shelf for a while, I think. I usually tear my mocks apart right after building them, but with this one, I'm going to keep it around for at least a couple of months. Next up, let's take a look at the Snake Knights. Little is known of the rogue snakes and the strange family that commands them. Some of the wealthier houses paint them as nothing more than an armed cult wasting away on some far-off island. But the newly crowned Dragon King is worried by their growing legions. His guards regularly see pilgrims march down the Ashen Mountain and onto ships headed for the island. The Orc Council tried to make contact with them to set up trading relations, but after being ignored for months and months, they would finally get word in the form of tattooed thugs roaming the streets of Giscaros. These ruffians were branded with purple snakes all across their bodies. So, the Southern Kingdoms consider their options as these cultish knights continue to grow. The rogue snakes are a new phenomenon in my world, but as their infamy expands, so does their army. With some of the most recent additions being these pilgrims who were granted magical abilities by the mysterious family in charge of the cult. This transformation has made regular men into feral, elf-like creatures who've become obsessed with all things serpentine. The royal guards despise these new converts and worry that they'll be the downfall of the family they swore to protect. Now for the castle itself, I wanted to keep it rather small as, after all, they're a new faction with little resources. So I built them this rocky desert base with a small stable in the color scheme of their shield. It's pretty simple looking, but I really like how it looks, and we can also throw in this possessed looking horse to finish off the section. The main tower I've designed by building a wide base with some cool details like a covered window and a brick-built banner. The second floor though is my favorite part of the castle. I came up with these two window outcropping sections that I think look really good. One of them is used to display a snake shield, and the other one's just a regular window. They're super easy to make and add in so much texture to an otherwise pretty basic tower. Originally I made them out of stone, but I decided to switch to wood as it just adds in some much needed contrast. It also gave me an excuse to use these printed log pieces, which always look terrific. Sadly, there's not much of an interior here due to just how small this tower is, but I'm okay with that. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the Krakens. The Kraken Raiders style themselves after the Vikings of old. They brandish axes and scribble the mythical Kraken onto their boats and shields. They've made a name for themselves by rallying farmers, thieves, and mercenaries alike into one band of pirates intent on destroying the Black Falcon Empire. But their leader, who once had the fervor of a bandit king, now sits fat on a hoard of treasure that he could have never conceived of having. His newfound opulent lifestyle is starting to grind against the crew that made it possible. Those same farmers, thieves, and mercenaries who were slighted by the Black Falcons now find themselves being exploited by the same man who offered them justice. And so a mutiny is brewing. As you can see, I took a lot of inspiration from Vikings for these guys, naturally, but I also wanted them to look like a hodgepodge of different types of people. So one of them might have the classic Viking look, while another has the stylings of a classic smuggler, and even a standard mercenary. I think this variation really works for them as a mix of people, and I love how these guys turned out. Now, since they're a band of pirate Vikings, I also gave them this small boat for transferring all of their stolen loot. I'm working on a big ship for these guys, but for the time being, I figured it'd be cool to build them a small hideout. I had the idea to build a Black Falcon Island outpost that the Krakens have taken over and are using it as a place to hide. So I came up with these two small base plates that we can connect together with two towers on each island. The left one has a locked metal door and a couple of details like a Kraken shield and a window, while the other one has an outcropping on the front and a removable wall in the back that gives us access to an ancient Viking shrine that the Krakens pray to. They connect really easily together with a bridge in the middle that allows for the small boat to pass through. This is a really small build, but I think it makes sense since I can't imagine the Kraken spending too much time on land. Moving on, let's now build out the Griffin Knights. The Griffin's Guild was started by a former mercenary that was sick of the aimless lifestyle of a soldier for hire. He was depressed, going from one faction to the next, fighting in more wars than he could care to count, only finding small moments of joy when he was hired to defend the helpless. Eventually, he and some other disgruntled mercs gave up that life to start their own bounty hunters guild. Starting small by defending villages and merchants, but eventually growing enough of a reputation to garner the attention of the Lion Kingdom. The Queen tasked them with fighting the infamous Wolfpack marauders that were constantly robbing villages on the outskirts of her empire. So they did just that, and have been in an all-out feud with the Wolfpack for years. Now for my Griffin Knights, I wanted pretty much all of them to have cheerful expressions and kind of an honorable look, if that makes sense. It helps them contrast against their rivals, the Wolfpack, and it just suits the knightly aura of the Griffin. These guys are just such a fun faction to customize. I think you can tell by looking at the figures I made, these are some of my favorite from the video. And I can't wait to actually really start army building them when they come to Pick-a-Brick. Anyways, now for the castle, I thought it made sense for them to be in the dead center of the map, near the end of the river Wild Run. Close to their lion benefactors, but also close to anywhere on the map. And since they're set up on the river, I went with this sandy clay base plate. Like the Kraken Castle, I split it between two sections so that we can get this cool bridge effect in the middle. The left tower that I've built has a small armory so that the Griffins can grab a weapon before heading off on a mission. Again, all of these floors are modular so that we can easily access the inside. The other half of the castle is the main prison. We've got an entrance here with a couple of weapons on the wall, and the gear from an imprisoned Wolfpack marauder. Moving around the side, we'll find a removable wall that lets us take a better look into that cell. I love how this little jail cell section of the build turned out, and the expression on the prisoner's face is just perfect. I love this minifigure head. I don't know if you can quite tell on video, but in the jail cell, I made sure to use some sun-damaged pieces so that it looks more dank and kind of run down. I think it's a pretty cool effect in person, but I'm not sure if it's showing up on video. And then on the other side of the wall, I've set up this bounty board with a couple of different flyers that I've used in previous videos. With both foundations set, I can add in this bridge that just connects with some snot bricks on either side. It's a really simple connection, but it made the most sense for this castle. Now we can add this watchtower to the very back that I've topped with some wooden crenellations to add in a bit of needed texture to the castle. On the inside of the tower, I added a ladder and also some more arrow slits because, I mean, let's be honest, you can never get enough of those. Finally, to finish the mock, I'll add in this prisoner escort with a couple of more captured bandits in tow. I love the expressions on these guys, they look so pissed off, it's like perfect. I wanted this Griffin castle to feel like a classic LEGO playset, and I think I did a decent job of getting that vibe across with all the space to set up minifigures. The big walkway on the top of the castle is so much fun to just set up different scenes, and this is probably my second favorite mock of the video. So I hope you enjoyed this little mock showcase and lore update because it's been a long time since I've done one of those. I've got more mocks coming soon, including a much needed ship for the Kraken Knights. Let me know which one of these was your favorite, or least favorite, I don't know. And if you have any suggestions for the Kraken boat that I'm working on, please let me know in the comments because I would love some tips. And a big thank you goes out to my channel members, Gyojo, Faisal, Rio Bricks, Wachtermeister, Sam, Ryzen Covers, The True Emperor, Clunk, Peter, and all of my other members for supporting the channel. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a member, you can check the description down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching.